from the Energy Boutique with your energy forecast for Tuesday, March 11th. Okay, so we have a very busy day in the cosmos here today. We have 15 different aspects taking place. 12 of those aspects are going to involve the moon, and the moon is still in Leo energy pretty much all day, but we will see the moon in Leo go void, of course, at 4:17 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We won't be locking into Virgo energy, though, until 3:57 a.m. early Wednesday morning, and of course, that is going to catapult us into the full moon lunar eclipse energy window. We will be building towards this full moon that will be popping off on the 14th. And the minute that we kind of dip our toe into that Virgo energy, the build up has begun. So coming out of the last 2 days, which have been moon days, days that had us all up in the feels, emotionally refining, defining, realigning, recalibrating ourselves. Today, we're going to feel bounced all over the place. And I know we've kind of been, sloshed around back and forth, up and down, all over the place while we've been in Pisces season. But with the craziness and the chaos of 15 different aspects popping off here today, we are definitely going to be going through it. So with that being said, the moon in Leo makes a beautiful interaction with Saturn, the Lord of Karma, in Pisces energy right out of the gate. And this is helping us to kind of redefine again what our heart space wants, needs, desires, what it is that we have to do to get it. Saturn, of course, lends us a little bit of a reality check to organize our thoughts, organize our feelings, organize the plans that we need to put into play in order for us to, again, be wrapping up particular chapters, closing the door, and preparing for this pivot point into a new path, into a new direction. So although this is a positive aspect, there is a little bit of weight on our heart space because, Saturn, he just kind of sticks it to us. He wants to make sure that we are able to carry this particular weight before we go ahead and start switching things up. So if you need to go back, take a listen to the Ascension forecast for this week to remind yourself that today is definitely going to bring on the Ascension symptoms. I would definitely recommend that. And I've created weekly Ascension guides. So jump over to my website. If you're not a Patreon member, jump over to my website, grab that Ascension guide. It gives you all of the astrology of the week, all of the energies that we can expect, all of the Ascension symptoms that are going to be popping off and what you can do about it to kind of lessen that particular discomfort. So again, if you're over on my Patreon, you're getting the play-by-play each and every single day. If you're a gold member, you now have access to those particular weekly guides. And again, if you're not a Patreon and have no want, need, or desire to become a Patreon member, then you can access all of this content on my website. So definitely jump over and take a minute to kind of skip through what this week is going to be about, specifically here today, because all of the energy is definitely building here today. So that moon in Leo is going to go ahead, make a positive interaction with Mars, the god of war, who of course is in Cancer energy. And this is going to get a little bit of pep in our step. We are highly motivated, hell-bent, damn well, and determined to see this particular chapter through. The wants, needs, and desires, especially for change in our physical realm, is becoming so overwhelming that staying in the same place, staying in a point of paralysis, is now more painful than what we previously perceived these particular changes would be. So Mars is kind of infusing us with a new spark, a new fire, new flame, this new mood, this new attitude in order to boss up, to see things through, and to do the hard things that, we've been avoiding in order to actually close the door on the past and again, clear the space, clean the slate for us to be building something new. The sun in Pisces energy is then going to make a beautiful interaction with Chiron, the wounded healer, in Aries energy. So this is beautiful because, again, we're at the stage in the game in Pisces season here where we're tapping into the positive qualities and characteristics of it, which is healing, which is change, which is transformation, which is trust, which is receiving a lot of insight from the higher realms of intelligence and, of course, our higher selves. And so the dreaminess, the imaginativeness, the fantasy-like energy that we get from the positive parts of Pisces season definitely coming through at this particular juncture. And with Chiron being the wounded healer, being aspected in a positive way, we are focused on the healing. We're focused on the growth. We're focused on our strength. We're focused on building our confidence. We're focused on building ourselves up. And this is a beautiful energy for that. And it's putting into perspective what we feel strong enough to tackle, what we feel confident in actually being able to handle at this point, where just a couple of weeks ago, we were running in the opposite way, the opposite direction. So this is going to be a beautiful boost to our self-confidence, to our self-esteem, to this new version of self. And we are definitely feeling confident that we have what it takes at this particular juncture to do all of the hard things that we weren't really sure that we were going to be able to tackle just a couple of days ago. We then have Venus, the goddess of love, beauty, worth, pleasure, and money. She's currently retrograde, so this is her in the underworld. Again, 40 days, 40 nights, beating herself up, breaking herself down, reassessing, reanalyzing, revisiting old self-worth issues, relationship, power struggle dynamic and issues, relationship toxicity, dysfunction issues, and of course, financial issues as well, because our finances are directly tied to the way that we feel about ourselves, and relationships are directly tied to the way that we feel about ourselves, because we only attract people, places, and things that, again, we are a vibratory match of. And so we have Venus semi-squaring, which isn't the greatest interaction, with Uranus, the great awakener, who happens to be in Taurus energy that Venus naturally rules over. This is going to be a destabilizing energy. This is going to maybe throw a wild card energy at us, throw a wrench in our plans, shake us up, wake us up where it is that we've been staying silent when we should be getting a little bit loud. This is going to be a jolt to the central nervous system, either, us being, let's say, building in confidence to a breakthrough point where we're speaking our truth and we're making some changes. But more than likely, it's going to create a lot of anxiety because we are reaching a peak precipice point of realizing who and what needs to stay, needs to go. And the feelings that we're having, the pivot point that's taking place in our heart space, it's hard to be quiet about it. And so Uranus, who does kind of shake things up and wake us up to the changes that need to definitely be made, probably going to throw us for a little bit of a loop. And we're going to see that particular destabilization, not only in the way that we're feeling, but it's probably going to be highlighted first and foremost in our relationship dynamics and the conversations that we're having with the people closest to us. So that's going to create a little bit of an upset, a little bit confusion, a little bit of disruption, but we're going to be better off for it. May I remind you that all of the darkest parts of ourselves, of our lives, need to be kind of shook up, needs to rise to the surface of our awareness before we enter into this full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo energy. That's the releasing point. That is the purging point. That is the elimination point. But we have to be aware of what isn't working. We have to be aware of our fears, doubts, insecurities. We have to be aware of our pain and trauma in order for us to do something about it under this full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo energy. So the moon in Leo energy, then going to trine, beautiful interaction with Chiron, the wounded healer. So this is fire on fire action. And we love this because fire on fire action, first of all, burns away the junk and the gunk, burns through the cords of attachment, specifically with the past, because the moon in Leo is boosting us in our self-confidence, in our courage, in our boldness, in our bravery. Chiron, of course, being the wounded healer, aspected in a positive way. We're focused on our strengths, our confidence, what we're building within ourselves. And we are kind of more open to doing the hard things that, again, we've been running away from for a very long time. This is kind of building up our self-esteem, building up our strength, building up the way that we feel about this newest version of self and what we feel confident enough to actually jump in, to actually tackle, to actually handle. And so this is a beautiful interaction because, again, not only do we burn away the junk and the gunk, but then we get a little bit of a refresher and a renewal to our soul, to our spirit. So there's definitely a little bit more of a pep in our step with this particular interaction. The moon in Leo goes ahead and makes a very uncomfortable interaction with the sun in Pisces. So, of course, this isn't going to feel good. It's not supposed to. It's highlighting for us what we want, need, and desire, but in the worst kind of ways. Meaning, sometimes we need to figure out what we don't want, what we don't need, what we don't desire, in order to flip the script and figure out what we actually do want. And this is going to be one of those times. Anytime that the sun and the moon are coming together, there's going to be an aha moment. There's going to be a level of an emotional awareness of what we want, need, and desire. But at this particular juncture, because the interaction is creating tension and conflict, it is going to be out of banging your head against a wall. It's going to be out of really just feeling the dread of having to either deal with certain people or continue doing the same old, that we realize what we don't want, need, and desire. And it's that point that we can create a framework on what we would prefer to have instead, the experiences, the people, places, and things that would be a better alternative than the current ones that we aren't feeling so hot about. That's how we come up with new intentions. That's how we come up with the new goal, vision, and dream. And it's happening at a perfect time because, again, we have to have all of these realizations in our face and in our awareness prior to us moving into that full moon lunar eclipse energy. The moon in Leo then going to make a beautiful interaction with the North Node in Pisces. So this is beautiful because it tells me that the tension and the conflict that we just sat in, when we realize what we don't want, what we don't need, what we don't desire any longer, it does flip a switch within us in order for us to figure out what we would prefer instead, because that North Node in Pisces is trying to get us on the right path, trying to get us in alignment with a new mission, a new purpose, a new goal, has us open-hearted, open-headed, if you will, open-minded to what it is that we would want to be actively trying to manifest and actively trying to pursue. And the moon in Leo gives us the boldness, the bravery, the courage to actually rise to the occasion, rise to the tasks, the chores, the roles, the responsibilities that we would have to 100% take on and be accountable and responsible for in order to, again, clear out the past, clear the path up for our future. The moon is then going to make a very uncomfortable interaction with Saturn. So you want to talk about getting a little bit of a smackdown, a little bit of a reality check from the universe. This is when we kind of pull ourselves back down to earth because, again, the moon interacting with that North Node allows us to move into La La Land to kind of gain a visual on where it is that we would like to end up. But when we realize where it is that we would like to end up and we reel ourselves back into the present moment and recognize the gap between where it is that we're at and where it is that we desire to be and the to-do list that comes along with us having to get kind of, rid of the past, rid of those contracts, rid of those people, places, and things that we have no resonance with, no vibration with, no want, need, or desire to continue to pour into. It is that reality check that starts weighing on our shoulders. And so the to-do list is kind of daunting. It feels overwhelming. It's at this particular juncture where the moon and Saturn are coming together to realize, because again, Saturn's in Pisces energy trying to dissolve and deconstruct the old world and the old version of self and that old false belief system that old version of self was sitting in order to build the old world that we're no longer resonating with. This is an aha moment, like, okay, I am highly charged in my heart space. I know what I want, need, and desire. Man, look at that list that I got to go through. Look at all the things that I got to deal with. Look at all the hard decisions that I have to make in order to actually get there. So we do kind of get the wind knocked out of our sails just a tad because the reality, the weight of the reality of what we have to do in order to close the door on the past and become the creator of our own realities to manifest that long-term goal, vision, and dream that we were just excited about is very heavy. It's a lot to process. It's a lot to deal with. So then the moon in Leo is going to make a positive interaction with Neptune in Pisces energy, and this is going to restore our faith. This is going to boost up our soul and our spirit, remind us of what it is that we're fighting for, remind us that when we think of that visual and we allow ourselves to actually think about what it would feel like to be living in that particular reality, suddenly all is well in the world. Suddenly that very long, daunting to-do list seems a little bit more manageable. And so again, this is like a renewal of our goal, our vision, our dream, of our hopes, our wishes, our faith, and the trust that we have, not only in ourselves, but in the universe, that we can make it happen. The moon then goes ahead, makes a very uncomfortable interaction with Mercury. Mercury being the ruler of the mental plane. He's in Aries energy. And of course, he's about days away from his retrograde. He will be retrograding within 24 hours of his rulership over this full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo energy. And so the moon being our heart space and Mercury being our head space, they're not on the same page, mostly because Mercury in Aries energy is looking for, let's call it short-term pleasures, short-term outcomes, meaning we want to take action, we want to make moves now, we want instant gratification. While the moon in Leo knows that if we're being true to ourselves and we really, really are heart aligned and we really, really want to manifest that goal, vision, and dream for the long term and we want it to stick around, we can't settle for short-term fixes. And so our mental plane is kind of looking for, that short-term fix, that quick impulse, that quick result. And our heart space knows that we want something that lasts a little bit longer than that. So we're definitely not on the same page as far as our heart and our head go. The moon in Leo goes ahead, makes the same kind of uncomfortable interaction, this time with Venus, who is retrograde in the Aries energy. And so again, there's a lot of deconstruction going on in our heart space. Our values are changing. Our worth is changing. Our priorities are changing. Because of that, there's going to be some role changing as well. The people that we were very connected to, had a very strong connection with this time last year, may be kind of falling out of our realm, out of our reality. When we do the work on ourselves to build ourselves up and therefore have a stronger vibration and frequency, most oftentimes than not, the people that we have surrounded ourselves with, they fall off. They fall out of our lives. Why? Because if you're not going to grow with us, then you're going to be going in a different direction without us. And the truth of the matter and the reality of the matter is that we have to break our own hearts first before we are going to be able to kind of, quote unquote, break the hearts of others. Now, is it a goal to break the heart of others? No, it's not. But Venus's whole, trip into the underworld is recognizing where it is that sometimes we have to be the villain in other people's stories, because doing what is right for us is not doing what is right for other people a lot of the time. And we're at this particular point in time, especially with Venus in this Aries energy, where this new identity that we're building, this new strength that we have, this new worth that we're finding within ourselves, we are not willing to back down from it. We're not willing to give our power away any longer. And that may mean that, again, we're coming to a very harsh truth, a harsh reality, that we're going to have to be the bad guy in somebody else's story when we are put in a position to have to break the attachment that, again, we've had with people, places, and things for a very long time now. So our heart is changing, our worth is changing, priorities, values are changing, and eventually the people in our lives will be changing as well. Major assessment going on in our heart space. And of course, that does not feel good. Now, the last thing that we got going on with this moon in Leo before it goes into the void is a square. And of course, a square does not feel good. It's not supposed to. And it's with Uranus, the Great Awakener in Taurus energy. And so a square highlights where we're going through growing pains. And Uranus in this Taurus energy, of course, Uranus wants us to break free from a lot of the aspects, people, places, and things of the old world. But that Taurus energy, being a fixed earth sign, we double down. We're holding on to the old, even though we've outgrown it, with a little bit of a death grip. And although it doesn't make sense, and although we are kind of doubling down on resisting, making the changes that we know that we need to make, there's this whole, I'm going to say, belief system that is rapidly shifting, rapidly changing. The perspective that we need to have needs to rapidly change as well in order for us to detach from the people, places, and things that once gave us security, stability, and comfort. And so the moon in Leo, again, wants this change, wants to push forward, wants to make some progress in a new path, in a new direction. The Uranian energy wants that for us too. However, we're stuck in a rut in this fixed earth energy of Taurus. And so what we're getting here is our heart wants to move on. Our head hasn't quite gotten there as of yet. And because of this, again, Uranus is going to destabilize us. That's what he does. He shakes the earth if you will. He shakes the foundation and the structure that we were used to feeling safe, secure, and stable upon in order for us to see things from a different way. And when this happens, we are going to be kind of changing lenses, if you will. We are going to be seeing ourselves as the problem. We got to get out of our own damn way. We have to stop resisting making the changes that we know that we need to make in order to set ourselves free. So at 4:17 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the moon is going to go void, of course. And when the moon is void, things are shaky, things are unstable, things are uncertain. And especially coming out of the square with Uranus, we definitely have to understand that the Ascension symptoms will be popping off. Our central nervous system is going to feel like it's under attack. We are going to be feeling like we're on an elevator, feeling our guts rise up in our throat and then back down again. We are still in Pisces season. And so again, if you are struggling with the physical symptoms, there are a lot of resources out there in order for you to understand not only why it's happening, how it's happening, and what you can do to kind of lessen the blow of some of those symptoms. We do have the moon now in the void, making a positive interaction with Jupiter, the planet of growth, expansion, beliefs, abundance, and blessings in this Gemini energy. So we get fire and air, and this is going to give us a spark, a fire, a flame. There's going to be a combustion. There's going to be an aha moment. And suddenly, because Jupiter is bringing the optimism and bringing the confidence and bringing the magnifying glass to show us that some of the challenges, some of the struggles, specifically with the aspect that we just had with Uranus and Taurus about realizing that we're the problem, we're the ones holding on for dear life to the old when, again, it's serving no purpose. This is going to illuminate for us and magnify for us where it is that we're seeing a challenge is actually an opportunity for growth. And so this is going to hit us a little bit different because Jupiter in Gemini energy is expanding the mind, opening up our mind, opening up our perspective so that we can see our own actions as the observer. And when we act as the observer and a third party observer, we can see where it is that, guess what? Yeah, you are the problem. And guess what? Until you let go, we're going to be stuck in the same old, same old. And so emotionally speaking, there is this aha moment that we have the power, we have the control to kind of, again, flip the script, reframe it in such a different way so that we don't feel like letting go of people, places, and things that we've outgrown is necessarily a loss. It's more of a advancement of moving on, moving forward, preparing ourselves for this next chapter. 6:55 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have Mercury, ruler of the mental plane, ruler of information, communication, how it is that we express ourselves in this Aries energy, coming up to, bumping into, teaming up with, conjuncting Venus, the goddess of love, beauty, worth, pleasure, and money, who happens to be retrograde in this Aries energy. So this is our heart space and our head space, like our inner dialogue, our inner narrative, our belief, our lens, our perspective, totally changing in relation to the changes going on in our heart space. So this is going to be, again, a conjunction is just as much of an ending as it is a beginning. So we do have to understand that the ending is kind of the grief period, I would say, the perception of the sadness that we think we're going to feel, having made the changes that we know that we have to make in order to close the door on old karmic chapters and prepare ourselves for new ones. Similarly to that, we understand that it is a beginning, and that beginning is that our heart and our head, again, are attempting to get on the same page. And when Mercury eventually retrogrades here on the 15th, Mercury and Venus are going to be in the underworld together. And this is why, if you haven't listened to the March overview, you definitely should get on that, because, you know, having them travel together through the Aries energy and then having them travel together back into the Pisces energy and then having them go direct at the same time in this Pisces energy and retracing their steps back into the Aries energy is going to be a major topic and theme. And so this is going to bring major clarity to, you know, our self-worth issues, our self-esteem issues, major clarity to relationship topics and themes that, of course, Venus is picking apart in her retrograde. This is going to bring a aha moment and epiphany on some past pains, past trauma, pain, and emotional wounds that, again, probably served a purpose in the past that aren't really serving a purpose now, that for some reason we need to flip the script and kind of reframe things, restructure things. So if we're talking about conversation, which we kind of have to bring into the play because of course Mercury rules over communication as well, this is us kind of revisiting old conversations, especially where emotions are concerned, relationship dynamics are concerned. This is when because this is Aries energy, this is like our personal wants, needs, and desires, where we may become a little bit more open, more communicative to be able to talk about what we personally want, what we personally need, what we personally desire for our own growth and our own evolvement. And that may be the conversation that kind of, rocks the boat, so to speak, in relationship dynamics, because when we start comparing notes, we may realize that we're not on the same page with the people that we were once, on a mission with. And that in itself is going to be the unraveling or the reconstructing of the relationship dynamics that each and every single one of us are dealing with as of right now. Not just romantic relationships, all of your interactions. So that is a beautiful thing. And then the last thing that we have going on here today is the moon in this void in the Leo energy, making a very harsh interaction with that North Node in Pisces. So it's almost as if the clarity that we gained between Mercury and Venus popping off, reframing it, restructuring it, seeing it as it is, not for the way that we wished it would be, suddenly throws a wrench in the earlier plans that we had for ourselves to align with a mission, with a goal, with a purpose. Suddenly we get so overwhelmed with the thoughts, with the emotions, with the to-do list, that suddenly we can't see those future goals, visions, and dreams as clearly as we were able to see them in the earlier parts of the day. Now, not saying that, the whole plan is going to be thrown out, but sometimes it's a sobering effect when you realize your actual emotions, your actual thoughts. And when that heart and head get in alignment and it reveals certain epiphanies to you, once you know, you can't unknow. It's like this nagging voice that keeps at you in the back of your mind until you do the hard thing. And so now, because we're in this void, we're not as bold, brave, and courageous as we normally are with the moon in Leo. And because we just had a realization of where our heart space is changing and what that means as far as the long-term repercussions go, suddenly the long-term goal, vision, and dream that we were feeling pretty good and confident about earlier in the day, suddenly we're questioning whether or not that is the path for us to be walking. And it makes sense that we, again, we get a goal, vision, and dream, we get assurance, we get confirmation, we get validation, we get all of these things. And then suddenly, with all of that, then it becomes very clear that guess what? We're not feeling so hot anymore. We're not feeling so good about it. We're not feeling so positive about it. And that's when the ego kicks in and starts speaking fear into something that we were very excited about. And of course, all of this needs to happen because we have to face those fears dead on, especially as we enter in to this full moon lunar eclipse energy.